sometimes you give me artists and I have this idea of when how
Yeah.
monumental they were and what they've done with their careers and all of this stuff that you definitely do a great job in expanding my knowledge on and filling in a lot of details. This is sort of like the canvas is completely blank because I know nothing of the Doctor's Children. So, what say you, my friend?
Well, you're going to be sorely disappointed.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy as John, as always, and we are here to discuss a song, an artist, and their story, perhaps, depending on how much John has to say about this. John, in order to get started, I'm going to need to know who we're listening to and what we're listening to. So, what have you got for us, buddy?
Okay, the band is The Doctor's Children. No, me neither. Um,
Okay, cool. I'm like, what the fuck? All right, so the Doctor's Children.
yes, this is a very narrow band of Norwich people who've heard of this. The track is called Me, September the 24th, 1983.
Oh, wow. That's
Mm.
5 days before I entered this world. Interesting.
Really?
Yeah, just 5 days. So interesting. A name like that,
Of course.
you think, okay, it's about the person and the date, but what does that mean exactly? So, all right, cool. Evocative name already. Let me go off and give this thing a listen and come back and we can discuss.
I'm surrounded by my emotions. What I feel is dangerous to my health. Believe me, it's real. Don't sing.
Okay, so yeah, we're almost a minute into this. It starts off with this really nice acoustic chord progression. And honestly, it sounds like it's got like I don't know if this is the case, but there's some effect happening there, and it sounds like maybe like a phaser, which is always interesting, right? To hear an affected acoustic guitar. Fairly certain that's an acoustic guitar. Uh, you don't often hear that. You usually hear it in its really like raw organic form. But it did have this like slight like even how it entered. May have been a production thing done in the in like the editing process, but I think it was in effect, and I thought that was really cool. The singer comes in. He's got sort of this contemplative sound to his delivery, and it sounds like some kind of introspective content is being doled out. I think he's talking about his emotions or something to that effect. Um, and then in comes this really simple but so pretty chord, or I mean, not chord, guitar, that through its little picking pattern kind of like hangs on that one note, um, with like the sort of the picking rapidity going on there, and that sounded great. Really, really pretty. Yeah, let's take this back a little bit. It's a short song. I'd like to hear sort of the entrance of that second guitar again because I really enjoyed what that brought to the table.
To my health. Believe me, it's real. crawl into your affections, wearing a disguise. My feelings are all I have, they're all I can give. If it comes to telling the truth, without you I'd live.
It's interesting. I was wondering how long they were going to sort of milk this judicious deployment of like just like, snare strikes that was going on, and if it was ever going to come to like fruition, like a beat proper. And it sounds like we have that, as well as the introduction of this like really nice sounding bass that I'm digging as well. Yeah, and that guitar line, man, is really really pretty, really pretty. Call me crazy, but that guitar line has like for some reason is giving me like the Cure vibes, as well as like almost classical guitar, um, which is interesting, like sort of like Spanish slash classical guitar sounds. I'm here for it. I love it, and I want to take it back. Damn, that was over too soon. Yeah, that was really, really pretty. That kind of plucking that was going on there. I'm almost like curious if that wasn't like a mandolin or something. That it sounded beautiful, whatever that was, but I'm not 100% convinced that that was a guitar, though I could be wrong. It had this like, I don't know. It definitely had this classical sound to it, in the way that it was being played. Yeah, this was really pretty. I mean, it's a shame that it was only the length that it was. That could have gone on for another minute at least, and I would have really enjoyed the beauty of it. God, there was some really, really good bass work happening beneath the surface there. Once the song sort of like became fully realized, about what halfway through or whatever. Yeah, interesting little song. Wish there was more to it. And from what the little bits that I caught of the lyrics, 'cause I was so captivated by the string work in this. Almost had this like emo-y vibe to it, like the lyrical content of it. But but yeah, I enjoyed it for a first listen. It's such a small sample size. I can't really say definitively like, oh, I love this and I got to hear more. I've never heard of this band. It's an interesting, evocative title as well. Like, I mean, like the individual and a date, it's connotes that like something monumental occurred to that person on this date. I'd love to know a little bit of that backstory as well. So a lot of questions I have when I'm dealing with a band I've never heard, a song I've never heard, uh, lyrical content that I didn't catch much of, but what I did seemed interesting, very introspective and contemplative, uh, and this song title that kind of begs questions, right? So I've got them, and I'm hoping that in response, John has some answers. But we will have to get back to him and discuss.
Shorten and the Wheelies, he's back. So, Me, September 24th, 1983, the soundtrack to your life. Yeah, listen, what do you think?
On September 24th, I was probably thinking, "Get me out of here." But
Yeah.
yes, things begin with this nice little chord progression on the acoustic guitar, it sounds like. And I'm not quite sure if it's just the production of the track, but there's this light phasing effect that I'm picking up on the way it enters and sort of what it does a little bit thereafter as well. Interesting to hear an acoustic guitar with some sort of effect on it because normally so often I'm used to hearing like it in its most organic and raw form. So I thought that was pretty cool. The singer begins singing about how surprised by about how he's surprised by his emotions, and how he feels it's dangerous to his health. Interesting. Didn't catch a lot of the lyrics, but from what I caught, I definitely got this very kind of like introspective vibe from the sort of narrative that's going on here. So, and because of that quality it had to it, not necessarily in its delivery, but just the overall feel of it, it almost has this like emo vibe, because of how self, you know, I don't want to say self-centered as if it's selfish, but how self-focused the lyrics seem to be that I caught, which was interesting. Um, so then enters what I believe is another guitar picking away at this seemingly simple but pleasant melody. And then at the 50-second mark, and just after the singer reemerges, there sounds like one sort of solitary strike of the snare, which is interesting. I think we get it a couple more times, but I remember like jumping when it happened because I was like, "Oh, there's a drum." I hadn't heard you yet. So this sort of marks the only bit of percussion we really get to this point in the song. We get some further exposition as the song progresses with the acoustic chords and the occasional drum strike. And at around the 123 mark, the song opens up a bit with an actual drum beat proper dropping. And now the song has some real movement behind these rhythms. There's some great bass work happening beneath the surface of this beautiful, almost Spanish slash classical guitar motif that occupies the foreground. And I say that because of that kind of like strumming pattern or that picking pattern that becomes very rapid. I don't know what it is about that, but it gives me Spanish slash classical guitar type vibes. But go on.
Yeah, for me, I believe it is a guitar, but it gives me kind of mandolin vibes as
I
well.
said that dude, at the by the end of the track, I find myself questioning because at the
Yeah,
beginning I'm like, it's so obviously a guitar, but the way it is played screams the way one plays a mandolin. So
yeah.
it's really funny you mentioned that and you kind of beat me to the punch, but I definitely experienced the same thing you just described, which is kind of makes me feel good because I was like questioning myself, like, damn, by the end of it, like, is that a fucking mandolin, maybe? So yeah, all of this sounds like beautifully pristine, almost shimmering in its quality, which is saying something given it's an auditory medium that I'm picking up on all these visual kind of effects. But you and I have talked about this. It's almost like, if you listen to music a certain way, it starts to paint pictures and take on a visual medium in its own way. So this is sort of what I was experiencing with this, just brightness and lights. Um, so unfortunately, though, it's over too soon after having just become fully realized. And I could have done with another couple more minutes of the song, to be honest. Also, and maybe this is because of how that guitar sounded like mandolin to me, but like I could have eased her. I could have imagined that with more time, more resources, maybe. I don't know much about this band, this album, what their experience was like, or their funding was like when forming it. All of that stuff comes into play here. But just first listen, what I thought could have taken this song to a next level, aside from just being longer. But what to do with that length of song if they were granted it or if they chose to add it would be, I could definitely hear added like auxiliary percussions being added to this to give it some extra flavor, and especially some added strings could have taken this song to the next level. Like I could think of some lovely like sort of like pizzicato violin plucking along with what that guitar does that sounds like a mandolin, just adding even more to this and elevating it to another level. It's already a really nice, pretty song that I enjoyed, but it almost felt, if I could be so bold as to suggest, a little incomplete. Like they could have done more with what was our great bones to a song. Just my personal opinion. I don't think that it diminishes or takes away from the song in any great deal. It's a really good song, again, like I said, with really great bones. But I bet with a little bit more added resources, they could have taken this thing to a whole nother place. I am curious, sort of as I have been since before I even hit play, what this song is about. I mean, I have this weird connection because it's so close to when I was born that like what event could have happened on this date. Now it's probably has nothing to do with a major world event and maybe is like the lyrics incredibly personal to the person who penned them. But I am intrigued by what it's possibly about. Also, I'm intrigued because this is one of those situations where I know nothing about this band. Sometimes you give me artists and I have this idea of when how
Yeah.
monumental they were and what they've done with their careers and all of this stuff that you definitely do a great job in expanding my knowledge on and filling in a lot of details. This is sort of like the canvas is completely blank because I know nothing of the Doctor's Children. So, what say you, my friend?
Well, you're going to be sorely disappointed.
Great.
So I chose this track because it's from 1986 and it's a lovely example of this sort of CA6 adjacent sort of indie music. This has got a bit sort of more melodic, and I think that second guitar, the acoustic, the second guitar that's mandolin-esque is really interesting because I mean you could morph this. It's a cross between sort of early James, the way his voice sounds, and a bit of REM as well, and
Okay.
it's all mixed in. It's just interesting, and that period of time.
Mhm.
Yeah, but there is nothing on Tinternet about them. There are two articles, one copies the other. So that's what this whole information is going to come for that
Okay.
one article.
Fair.
So yeah, this is the second track from their Rose Cottage EP. That's the chappie there,
Yeah.
1986. So personnel, I have got this. Paul Smith, guitar vocals, Matthew Woodman, organ, piano, Dave Ramsey, bass, and Roland Howarth, drums. So the band brought out their first and only single, Tomorrow I'll Die, in 1985. They then brought out two EPs, Rose Cottage, 86, and Girl with the Green Eyes, 87. The two EPs were combined together to produce an album called King Buffalo in 87, and that's it. So there's no band website, there's no Wikipedia entry. You can get the names of the guys from Discogs, and that is it. And then there is one article from Left and to the Back blog website, so which is I'm going to be resourcing heavily. And he's written it quite nicely as well. So here we go, settle in. It's a well-known fact to any indie aficionado that 1986 was a year where endless singles in childishly designed sleeves suddenly fell into the branches of small independent record stores. The accepted wisdom was that the contents of each would be either naive approximations of the Smiths, performed on Argus guitars, or deeply fragmented, barking mad experimental discs. The truth, in fact, frequently differs, and while the Smiths had gained affections amongst a certain kind of British musician, and there were also a few eccentrics out there who suddenly had the easy means to distribute their wares, there were also plenty of bands heavily tuned into the alternative rock being dispensed by the Paisley Underground and the Bunny Men, Julian Cope, REM, The Cure, et al. Plenty of them also had bugger all money, so choose to stick their recordings out in decidedly handmade sleeves. That all of them seem to have fallen by the wayside when it comes to blogs and websites. Examining this sort of thing has more to do with the fickle finger of fashion than much else. And brackets, unless their records came out on Creation Records, in which case all seems to be forgiven.
I want to jump in really quickly because you made a direct reference to them. Uh, there was a portion during that mandolin type guitar portion. There was like a bit where I had to pause and say it actually kind of reminded me a little bit of some of the Cure. And
Yeah. The softer stuff, yeah.
yeah, yes, absolutely. They're softer stuff. They're less brooding, dark gothic shit, and they're for lack of a better phrase, prettier stuff.
Yeah.
Just to take nothing away from the aforementioned goth. I love that doom stuff. But this, I was like, my God, that really does remind me of some of the fluttering like guitar work you would hear on some of that Cure stuff. So it's funny you mentioned that, and that I'd actually forgot to mention it in my synopsis. But yeah, you're spot on.
Actually, as well, if you think about it, if you take the strings from something like Catch and add it to this, that would fit perfectly. It's the same
Yes,
sort of
yes, and
song.
it's
Yeah.
probably where I did subconsciously where why strings jumped out to me as this additive that I think it was missing. So
Yeah.
yeah, makes sense.
So then the Doctor's children seemingly hailed from South London and appear to be taking a strident, melodic, bunny kind of path as opposed to the Smithsian one, which supposedly dominated at the time. This record is filled with punchy guitar noises and droning organs, which recall the more melodic end of 60s pop. Whilst there's nothing truly outstanding going on across the 4 tracks here, fans of independent music from that area might do well to lend their ears to this. Not only was it produced by John Leckie, 3 years shy of discovering the Stone Roses, but it also has a clean, carefree drive that has all but disappeared from alternative rock in the decades since.
Mhm.
Almost all the tracks contain clear, ringing chords and hollowed vocals. So yeah, we've mentioned John Leckie loads of times, anything from Susan the Banshees, etc. He done a lot of stuff, and a top producer. I can't imagine these guys with the small output they had any kind of financial backing. So the fact
Yeah,
they got him is amazing. But there you go. So he would have been a decent hand at the tiller, but a much restrained one in terms of what he could do.
yeah, exactly.
It says here the internet is rather shy about providing much more information about the band. And all I can really glean from the limited scraps available is that Sounds magazine rated them highly and predicted they would soon conquer all before them. Brackets, which obviously never happened. So the lyrics, now again, nothing anywhere. So I listened to it and I got pretty much 98% of the lyrics. There's one line which I haven't got a clue. So here we go. As you quite rightly quoted, I'm surprised by my emotions. What I feel is dangerous to my health. Believe me, it's real. And then that mandolin-like guitar comes in over the acoustic. Don't sing a love song or tell any lies. Don't want to crawl into your reflections wearing a disguise. My feelings are all that I have. They're all I can give. If it comes to telling the truth that you lived, and then we go into the instrumental, as you say, again comes the bass and the drums. The bass is really quite forward for that bit, really nice sounding. And then it comes back in. I'm not sure about this line. There's some words that are correct and some that aren't, but I lacked the time I was when we prayed. And then I'm certain for the rest. They're worth more than all the times I spent with a girl. So much more. I appreciate holding your hand, a simple kiss. This is where those piano chords come in. It's actually really nice, briefly. Solid golden moments with you are made of this. And then we sort of like jam out very briefly to the end. So there's a little addendum to that blog site, which from left and to the back, which says, this blog entry was originally uploaded in September 2009. And lo and behold, the band did actually get in touch with me February 2012. And they informed me that Paul Smith went on to front. They brought out this combination of 2 EPs called, what was it called? King Buffalo. And then they briefly changed their name to King Buffalo as a band, but I think that lasted weeks. And then so then he went on to front a band called Helter Skelter. Yeah, pretty much the same impact as the Doctor's Children. Matt Woodman, however, sang and played guitar on the Mother Earth album, The Further Adventures of Mother Earth from 2004. I love Mother Earth, so that's an accomplishment in my eyes. And Roland Howarth claims to have left the band due to, in quotes, religious and football differences. He also
Yeah,
says that,
one and the same, right? Football and
yeah,
religion.
yeah. He also says that Go Discs were discussing whether to sign Doctor's Children or the House Martins. And they obviously signed the latter, who did really well in this country. He presently plays folk clubs, is a worship leader, and last saw Matthew Woodman when he, in quotes, gave me a thing for bleeding radiators. So yeah, that's the update. 3 years on from the blog site. Now on the video that link I gave you, there's only a few comments because it's not well known at all. But there's a comment here from a user called Lee Hayes N8H, and it's only a month ago. And he wrote, Dave Ramsey, the bass guitar in this band, is my best friend. He passed away 3 months ago from cancer. I looked after him all the way through to his passing. He was like a father, but not a father. Just set me on the straight and narrow. He was a very private person, but took a shine to me. I love all the times I spent with him, a true soldier. I think that's really nice for someone to write that about someone. Yeah. But obviously, he's passed on. I don't know there's just so little information about the band. But yeah, I think they're all decent. They're not groundbreaking, but they're all decent songs on here. It's quite sometimes you get the odd little bit of treasure that you haven't heard before from that sort of indie period, where the songs are just really nice,
Yeah,
And this is a really pretty nice song that, you'll probably hum for a day or two, and then you'll never think of it again for another 5-10 years. But it's really pleasant.
it is.
So
It is.
again, a change of pace in terms of the different sort of stuff I've been foistering your way.
Yeah, no, I really like this. It's one of those. For me, it's like a perfect example of something that's not really perfect or great, but how like there's clearly talent here. Like,
Yeah.
why did folks who were in a position to do something about it let this fall through the cracks? Like, you got the attention of
Yeah.
a really interesting producer to come on who clearly I mean, at that point, I don't know how deep his track record was, but would go on to have a really great like track record.
Yeah.
It just seems to me like it had all the makings of just needing a little bit of guidance, a little bit
Yeah.
of input about how to take things up to the next level, and then boom, we've got another great act from that era on our hands.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this with other acts that we've covered on the channel before, that somehow, almost tragically, this seems to happen with some of the better, more talented acts, and yet somehow
Yeah.
others seem to get a hall pass to be mediocre or to be
Yeah.
just kind of sucks. So I enjoyed this. One listen without any information or anything about these guys, and I was able to see the talent in there and appreciate it. So I appreciate you sharing it with me too. Although it is a classic case of what perhaps could have been.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but
Yeah, and you never know. Perhaps some of the personnel in the band just thought I'd rather get on with my hairdressing job or whatever.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
that
yeah.
happens as well, doesn't it? And it
Or move
fractures
on
up.
with my faith or my fandom,
Yeah, yeah,
of my sport.
exactly. Yeah, my bleeding of radiators, whatever. Yeah, float your boat.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's a nice little slice of that sort of time and a sort of wistful, sort of pretty song. But
Yeah.
so thanks for listening to this.
Thank
Folks
you.
out there, please, there must be someone who knows more about the Doctor's Children than me or Andy, who probably knows as much as me now. So yeah, tell us what you think about this song. If you like it, do hit the like button. I suspect that it's going to need all the help it can get for the casual viewer. So you can encourage them along by liking it, and tell your friends, tell your bank manager, get everyone to check it out. We could get to double figures if we're not careful. Please drop some comments about this as well. Tell us what you think about this lovely, twee, wistful little ditty. And anything else you know about them. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. And help boost the channel onwards and upwards. And until we too can work with John Leckie. Is he still alive? I hope so. It'd be really awkward if it's just a coffin. But that being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
We'll see you later, guys.